Well, good evening, everybody. Whew, it's a week. It's been a week. It's been a thing with some stuff. Oh, there is so much stuff going on in the world, obviously, as we all know. But let's talk about the stuff that's in our day to day and what we're most concerned about for just running our businesses. So I think that, I think it's going to be a rough with everything that's going on in the world. Obviously, it's going to be rough. There's going to be some challenges. I think one of the things that's going to be a challenge is in colder markets. Obviously, they're, going to work through things as quickly as they can. But a lot of purchase contracts and things like that start getting done now for next winter's fuel. So we've already taken some steps, kind of go down that path. Basically getting prepared from we're going to do some conversions on a lot of oil burning systems and convert them to natural gas. That's one of the things that we're actually going to do. So we're putting that list together now. We think that puts us in a stronger position. It also allows us to allay those costs onto tenants. Because quite frankly, I'm sick and tired of watching $600 heat bills come in because they're lazy. Because they want to walk around the house in shorts and a t-shirt. I don't get to do that in the wintertime, but it's because I pay my own bill. So we're going to watch them have to pay their own bill. But I think the thing that people really need to be understanding now and really trying to get out in front of it, lease renewals, everything that you need to do to create this strong and consistent income. And I think that there's a lot of holes in a lot of people's game. And I think you're going to get exposed. I think you guys are going to get exposed in the holes in your game. One of the reasons that I teach a course about becoming an elite landlord is because there are 1,000 holes to plug. So much so that I have 10 hours of teaching on this. And then I have another 30 hours of, kind of like live classwork where we talk about this stuff and go through the different scenarios. So I would encourage you to, if you are certainly in a cold weather climate, I would make sure that you understand exactly kind of what your fuel situation is going to be for the next winter. If you have the opportunity to convert to natural gas, if I were in your shoes, I would explore that. Certainly. That's something that I've obviously done. We will be doing some of those, conversions. We're talking about, the market slowing down. I haven't seen the market slowing down, in all honesty. Our pricing went up again. Inventory remains tight. Small multifamily remains tight and solid. Rentals remain decent. It's much more like, we knew going through COVID, that, rents, not only did they escalate very quickly and did it look like we pulled, 10 years worth of rental increases into 2 years. Yes. But I think, I believed that rents would normalize and get flat or maybe even, trace back a little bit. So we've been kind of expecting that. And so we've seen that on some units. We've seen increase on others. Geographical desirability, location. So we certainly have seen that. We've seen a lot of people staying put. So I think people need to do themselves a favor and recognize that, having that conversation with people. Oh, excuse me. I have 2 sick kids, and so they are stealing some sleep from us right now. 2 of the 4 strep. One has strep, the flu, and double ear infection. And the other one just has the flu. Thankfully, hopefully we'll keep that. But I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunity for you guys to fine tune your game, whether that's, taking my course and considering things. I think if you ask anybody that was just in our first week of boot camp, I think if you ask anybody, I think every single person in that room learned something. Every single person in that room learned something that they can apply to their business today or as of Sunday and make their business better. So I think it's going to be a rough ride. I think, truly what I said in the title, buckle up, Buttercup. It's going to be a ride. And so So I can honestly tell you, I think that you guys got to get your game right. You got to be considering a lot of the things, playing that 4D chess. So cold areas, be looking at, heat sources, maintenance, make sure that you're getting some of that stuff out of the way now, you know. Um, I don't want the conflict to expand. I don't want it to carry on to be something bigger. But do you know that it's not? You don't. And now that something started, it's always easier to continue something than it is to start something from scratch. So, I would make sure that, one of the things that we do is we have, a spare refrigerator. We have a spare, washer dryer. We have spare stoves. We have spare microwaves. I might invest and go, you know what? Let's just double up on that. Let's just double up on that. Because I might not be able to get a stove that I need. I might not be able to get a fridge that I need. You just don't know. And most people have not lived through a global war like that. Most people haven't read the stories or talked to people that lived through it and what it was really like, and what the world looks like. So for me, my thought process is let's get more prepared. Let's, tie up some loose ends. If a tenant's not paying now, and jobs, told you, jobs are going to continue to get worse. They will continue to get, I think, significantly worse, over the course of this year. And so I think it's just something that you can still pick your spots and play offense. But I think the most important thing is keeping what you got, playing some defense, recognizing that you're in good position to move, that you've fixed the you've fixed the problems that you have that have kind of dragged on, and it's like, oh man, just haven't gotten to fixing that problem yet. I probably got to get to the fixing that problem. Like, just show some initiative and get some stuff done. Make that list of the top 3 or 4 nagging problems that you have right now, and don't put your wives and husbands on that list. That'd be rude. But you need to start to formulate things. You need to start to formulate things for what the world could look like over the course of the summer and headed into winter. Obviously, the hope is that everything is wrapped up by then, but you don't know. You don't know. And if you don't know, it's great to be prepared. So one of the things that helped me was I was prepared as I saw the great financial crisis occurring. In 2007, I started levering debt. Everyone's like, well, that's not a good idea. Really? Really? Go back and study GM versus Ford and see the one stark difference. Now, I'm a Chevy guy. I love my Chevy trucks. Had a ton of them. Love Chevys. Love my GM products. Love my Escalades and all that stuff. And no, I don't drive. I've never driven anything newer than a 2012 Escalade, so don't get your panties in a bunch. I'm not driving $100,000 Escalades, or $175,000 Escalades in some cases. But the thing that the biggest difference between GE and Ford in that time was GE was living the high life, and Ford said, we're seeing some cracks in the armor, so we're gonna start to get some debt. We're going to start to grab some debt out there. So what did they do? They grabbed a bunch of debt. I want to say it was like 15 billion. That number could be wrong, but that's the number that I remember. But think about that. So when tough times hit and cars weren't selling because it was a great financial crisis, guess who was okay and guess who had to go to the government for a bunch of money? GM had to go to the government for a bunch of money. And Ford didn't. Ford just flat out didn't. They had the money. And I think that was a testament to them being that much better run than GM at the time. But you see all that other stuff too. You see with the banks, and certain banks took certain amounts of money and some needed it and some didn't. But they said, hey, as a united front, we want you to all take it. And, I think the smallest sum there, I want to say it was like 7 billion, maybe 8 billion. But the biggest number I want to say was 25 billion. But I think you're going to start to watch some of this stuff, potentially happen again, especially with how long this drags on. Continue to watch layoffs because I'm seeing more of them. I'm seeing them more often, meaning same companies doing more layoffs. And AI is, it's not this magical thing that's going to replace every job in the next year. That's not going to happen. However, it's making people very, very strong at or making users of it much stronger and much more productive than they were. And when you see productivity increase like that, you're going to start to see even more layoffs. And so if you're in a job and you can do anything with AI, I would highly recommend you taking some courses and really understanding how the thing works. Because it's going to be something that I think a lot of people are going to end up using. So I think everybody should be, you better be ready. You better start doing that work. You better be locking in tenants, taking care of ongoing maintenance issues, trying to sign them to 2-year leases. An eviction takes the same amount of time if they have a 1-year lease or if they have a 2-year lease. So we've had a number of options where we've picked up where we've said, yeah, we'll do a 2-year lease. It just takes work off my shoulders, next year for renewal time. And if they don't pay, it wouldn't have mattered anyway. They don't pay, they don't pay. And if they don't pay, they got to get evicted anyway. So hopefully that stuff helps you guys kind of keep a better eye on what you need to look at. The last tip that I would give you is around utility bills. One of the things that we kind of got lazy with because we did a lot of Section 8 and housing choice voucher program housing. One of the things that we got kind of lazy with was picking up their utility bills, obviously being in the contract, and generally getting paid for it. We did our analysis because it was tax time and because I'm a dork. And we looked at it and we lost on every single one of those contracts, every single one of them. So let's say Section 8 pays, for heat and electric, they pay $200 a month. And so that's $2,400 a year. There was not one contract, not even one of those where we won, not one. So, and we saw the range between 2,700 and probably 3,700. So some we lost, $1,000 on. And that's, $80 a month in rent, right? Or 82.50 a month in rent. So what I would tell you is start to button that stuff up now. Make sure that things are in your tenant's name or that you have a way of back billing them. Here's why I don't like the way of back billing them as nearly as much. It's because with our incomes, us being landlords, we can't get subsidized anything when it comes to those utilities. The person in the house can. If they lose their job, they're not going to get their heat and fuel shut off. If they, there's programs out there, program after program. There's some companies out there that reserve a certain amount of oil every year to basically say, yeah, we can sell it at this price. So there's all those things that they can go out there and get. What I would strongly recommend that you do is put yourself in a position where they can go grab those things. The only way that you can do that is the HOA price 100%. I'm IT for 26 years and I sold AI and RPA. You ain't seen nothing yet. And there's pretty powerful stuff out there, but you haven't seen anything yet. But I've been doing, 17 years in healthcare doing AI and RPA. So I agree. But I think that, getting back to kind of the final point is put yourself in a position where you are not responsible for bills and variables that you can't control, because you could literally see your heat bill double because they don't have a job, because now they're not gone all day long at work and they turn the heat down. Now they're home 24/7. Now they're home all the time. That heat bill goes up a lot. You might have a really cold winter. We spent more money on snow removal this year than we spent any 2 years. The highest next to number 2 and number 3. We spent more money this year than we do on number 2 and number 3 combined. That's how bad the snow bill was this year. Absolutely atrocious. Now, is it the difference? Is it the difference in profitability and not profitability? No, but that's not the point. I want to maximize my opportunity and make the most money I possibly can. That's what makes the most sense. So that being said, let's jump into it. Jason and Jay, good to see you guys. Olayinka, good to see you as well. Good, sir. Ryan, good to see you. Mikey, hope you're doing well, my friend. Kyle Dorn, doing well. I saw your post on Taylor doing the work. I love that. That's awesome. She invests. I hate when my tenants' units are warmer than my house. Yeah, or even worse, when the heat is on and the window is open, especially since I pay the utility bills. 100%. And that's one of the things that we lost focus on. And we are changing that focus. We absolutely are changing that focus. So, we've got a number of renewals coming up over the next 6 months before the next winter. And absolutely every single one of them that gets renewed, they will be responsible for heat and hot water. 100%. Heat and hot water and electric. 100%. They are going to be responsible for that. Because they're not going to get shut off. JMFS, hello from Indiana House Hack. Hello. Mark, the financial firefighter. How are you doing, pal? Ryan, we've got 3 sick kids with fevers. Yeah, I got 2, my friend. Sleeping on a kid's bed the past few days has not been fun. No, dude, that's the worst, man. That's the worst. That's the worst. Yeah, that's hard. Ms. Millie, good to see you, my dear. Demetrius, good to see you, my friend. Hope all is well. I just submitted my resume for a job that will give me a 35 to 55% raise if I get it. I am qualified. Well, good luck. I hope you do get it. That's awesome. Larry Bird in the house. How you doing, buddy? Kyle Dorn. Yeah, I have a few on 2-year leases. That's great. AI is just the beginning. HOA pres. Yep, totally agree. Sold it, installed it, implemented it, did data conversions from core systems in healthcare, did it for 17 years. And then 10 years before that, I was in enterprise database and SCM. So yeah, I didn't work on the techie side. I worked on the business side, working with clients, and then on the implementation side. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Anna K, how are you, Anna K? I hope you're doing great. Lars, how you doing? Good afternoon. I know you were very busy. Could you please take a look at the email foundation issue with engineers report from 20 years ago? Yeah, happy to do that. Did you send it to lumberjacklandlord@gmail.com? I'm a couple days behind. I'm like 3 days behind right now. I'm trying to catch up. Kids put me a little bit behind, but I still had all of my week booked, and the jail is humming. The jail is humming. Oh, we've never been this close. I keep telling myself that anyway. It's true. We've actually never been this close. So today was carpet, which I'm just so stoked about. It looks so unbelievable. Thanks, Johnny. I appreciate you, buddy. I don't think you watch the show, but why the hell not? Johnny's this awesome guy. Been doing carpet for 40 years. Runs a great company and puts a lot of subs to work. So he's a good dude. Always helps us out. Always gets stuff done for us quickly, and they do a nice job. But yeah, we had a meeting with a restaurant this week for the restaurant space. Because again, our goal is to make this a community benefit. We can't do it for free for obvious reasons because we don't have any funding. But what we did want to do is make sure that we have cost controls. And so those cost controls really will allow us to, to be able to deliver unlimited play to a kid in a day for kids, and food, a nice healthy option, fruit cup, not one of those dinky little ones either. And hey, that's all you get. But fruit cup, snack, a drink, all of that for under $20. Being a dad of 4 kids, I can honestly tell you there is nothing that I do with my kids that is under $20. Zero things. They all cost at least that much to do. And very many of them are smaller or shorter activities. This allows the kids to go play for hours, jumping around and in the jungle gym and the experience of eating their lunch in the jail cells. And so we got to meet with a restaurateur. They own a number of restaurants. Talk to them about kind of what we would want the concept to be just generally. I'm like very broad strokes. And he said, yeah, we can absolutely do that. So he's trying to put together the numbers and see what makes sense. Because yeah, I just think it's an absolutely fantastic opportunity to make an impact in the community. You can't do that stuff usually starting out. You have to wait until you have a little bit of wind in your sails behind you, but I think it'll be an awesome opportunity to be able to give back to the local area. And, it gets plenty warm here, but the winter times are brutal. 4 or 5 months, people are shut in. A lot of the apartments here are not huge apartments because they're older apartments. So a lot of it is, more efficient, smaller stuff. And so these poor parents that get stuck, taking care of their kids on snow days and being able to just come down and let their kid run loose so they can crack open their laptop, put it on the table, and do a little bit of work while their kid runs around. They're supposed to be watching them, but they're at least in a safe, confined space where they can do that. So yeah, just a lot of opportunity, but excited for that. All the flooring is now done. Every bit of flooring is done. The electrical's all been signed off on. All the heating systems are up and going. Paint is finishing over the course of the weekend, early part of next week. And then we have final on fire, and we have final on plumbing, I think, is basically where we're at. So we're very close. Oh, counters. We're just waiting on counters. I talked to a couple companies today. I'm just waiting for them to get back to me with some general numbers, because the people that we originally had are not a good fit. Yeah, they couldn't manage showing up. HOA Press, if you transfer utilities, the expense to the tenants, then do it as quick as you can. Yes. Why would we do it slow? Of course, HOA Press. NBC, hey, what's going on, Robert? Good to see you, pal. Kyle Dorn, luckily internationally, my tenants pay all the utilities, even though it would still misuse the HVAC so much that we put lockable thermostats. Yeah, they have a range between 67 and 73 they can choose from. Yeah, so in the winter time, we max ours, 70 degrees, we're more close. Caldor, can you guess which tenants are the worst with that? I have no idea. Yeah, it's inherited for sure. NPC cabinets came today. They look amazing. Yes. So that's one of the cool perks. Thanks, Robert, for saying. Did you open up a box and play with the box a little bit, play with the door, see with the hinges? I know that you're an engineer, so I hope you appreciate the design and the rugged design of them. But that's one of the perks that we actually have in the boot camp is if you do the course and you get into the boot camp, we actually will allow you to buy on our contract for kitchens at wholesale. The other cool thing too is that, we basically have a designer that does $99. I don't get any part of that. I give her the full $99. But she gets paid and she gives you a design. You can make adjustments and tweaks to it. And then boom, you get your design that then we can quote, then she will then quote that off of that. And I'll work with the company to get that quote together. And then boom, you're done. You can order and they drop ship. And so they drop shipped to Robert, and he got his 2 kitchens worth of cabinets. And we find that we're typically about 60 to 65, sometimes as much as 70% off of retail. But the quality of the product is, we're usually around Home Depot prices for their stuff that they keep in stock, and the quality blows the doors off that stuff because nothing is pressboard in the stuff that we use. Jeremy, hey, enjoyed the video yesterday with the 3 amigos. Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate that. Thanks for coming over for a visit. Josic from Jersey. Good to see you, pal. Ryan, thoughts on increasing deposit to potential tenants? Can't do it. Most states it's illegal. You can charge fees, but you can't charge deposits. One of who is a smoker. Winters here are cold. Yeah, Ryan, I can tell you that smokers are tougher. You can put that it's a non-smoking unit, or you can put that it's a smoking unit, but that any and all blah, blah, blah would need to be taken care of. Or you can make it a non-smoking unit and say you need to smoke outside. They're going to lie and they're going to smoke inside anyway, but then you get to keep their deposit when you have to repaint the place. That's a lot of times what it can happen. All-nighter hider, I'm still painting. Bring the ear candy. I will try and bring it hard for you, my friend. Driving the hole. Jeremy, E123. Might have to evict my first tenant. I'm sorry to hear that. They aren't paying on time. Have people staying consistently who aren't on the lease. And of course, I'm house hacking, and they aren't the best neighbors. Tons of smoking. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that you can always do to make things easier on yourself is when you observe that they are breaking a rule, you can send them, and that's one of the documents that we actually have in the course, is basically a tenant lease violation. We have a very specific tenant lease violation that says, the approximate time frame, what the infraction was, and please note that this is your first warning. But we say in the lease, it's basically spoken about in the lease that if we have if we hit if a third occurrence of anything, that's a breaking of the lease, a third occurrence, and we will start eviction process. You don't have to live with that type of a tenant, but if they're constantly paying late, what you do need to be sure, and I'm going to put you on the spot, Jeremy, are you charging them the late fees? And I'll wait for your answer. I'll get down to it soon enough, it looks like. Let's see. Sent it to that Amit. Okay, sounds good, Neil. I'll be able to, I hope I can look at it tomorrow. That's my expectation. But the wife is going away for the weekend to her mom's birthday. And so I have the two sickies at home. So I will try to get to it as best I can, hopefully in between naps. Flavio, good to see you, good friend. Also, they have two inoperable cars in the property. Yep. Nope. No. If you have it in your lease, or if they don't have a lease that's signed by you yet, just look at what the town statute is. And then you can't cite your lease, but you can cite the town statute saying, cars on property must be registered and inspected, or under current registration and inspection, blah, blah, blah. HOA Press, the next big thing for AI is that modeling of the human brain by neural works, is going to be better than expected. Yeah, I don't think that that's the next big thing. I think that will be important, but I think what really will turn things on its head is true quantum. If that chip by Google works like they say it's working, that's the game changer. That's the game changer. That by far is the game changer. Yeah. Won't even be close. Let's see. Master Coach University, we increase deposits from a tenant that stays for second year to fill out our protections. So far, tenants are agreeable, 1 month security deposit. So you just have to be very careful, Master Coach, because that there is state laws against that. So in my state of New Hampshire, I cannot charge a last month's rent. I can only charge security deposit, and I can only charge first month's rent. If they renew, I also cannot increase their deposit more than what the new rent is. I can increase that, but I can't increase it to more than what the new rent is. Every state has rules around your deposits. Be very careful with those rules, because guess what happens? If you go to court and the judge sees that lease and you did something in violation of the law, that's what's called unclean hands. They're going to strike down your case, and it's basically going to give the defendant, who's your tenant, it's going to give them some teeth, because usually there's different options. There's different ways to what's called cure in these different states. You just got to be really careful of that. She Invests, great podcast with Coach Carson. Oh, thank you so much. I love working with Coach. I mean, I'm blessed. I get to work with Dion and Mike and Zoob. I did one with Adrian. I did one with the entire One Rental at a Time crew, which was a blast. But yeah, super, super blessed that I get to work with Coach. Really like him. Genuinely good guy. Had lunch with him at Bigger Pockets. Just really super guy. Great investor. We do things differently, but they both work. So yeah, appreciate you saying so. Love working with Coach. He'll be, once we kind of get clear that I have a bunch of stuff planned. I'm literally just waiting for us to be finished the jail, because we're so stinking close. And then I have a couple small projects after that we're just kind of finished, that we expect we can finish up pretty quick. Just got to get done these projects and be able to put the nail in the coffin. I have an idea what to do. Just wanted to hear some perspectives. Cool. Yeah. Good luck, Jeremy. Josh Burdick. Greetings from Navarre Beach, Florida. Sorry. Florida, and the Gulf of America. Gulf of America. I love it. Looks like this boot camp, we need a deep dive into heat. Yeah, we certainly can. We can do that. Hey, Matt, question. Hey, Jeremy Kirkwood, father of 47. Good to see you, pal. Bad real estate agents are lame. Oh, dear God, they suck so bad. Recently saved me $400K by producing the worst listing of all time. Missing 2,950 square feet. Are bad agents actually beneficial as for investors? No. So yes, that stuff can happen. It's our responsibility to do the work. The problem is that if you find that, like, there's a high likelihood for malpractice. In fact, we found, what was it that we found? There was something that we found, something like that. Yeah, I think it was square footage as well. They just took what the card and the town said. We had looked up and the town had never updated that. We saw the permits on file. Like the agent was just a lazy idiot. And yeah, we picked up that square footage. And it was just a simple adjustment, from a records perspective and just measuring it out. So yeah, shame on them, but sadly it happens, but that's why I do the work and I still look at everything. NBC, too bad for me until I get that zoning variance. I have to pay for the heat, for heat because one boiler heats two. Yes, exactly. So we do have some things like that. We will go to submetering this year, or we're just adding a system. So we have 3 Renais that we're going to add. And the reason we picked Renais was because they're 1-bedroom units. So they're smaller units. So we're going to go with 3 Renais, and that gets them off of the other existing system. I can put those Renais in. I'm waiting for the final quote, but between, $2,500 and $3,500. And that will save me, having to pay the whole bill, which is at least $2,000 or $3,000 a year. So now's the time for us to do that. Now's the time to make sure that we're good, we're okay, and we're getting that done. But yeah, yep, Renai's is absolutely the approach that we're going to take for sure. Master Coach, looking forward to seeing the jail. I'm looking forward to showing the jail. It has been such a ridiculously long project, and I haven't seen my jail yet. I haven't seen it with the front, the front wood removed, so you can see the brand new windows, because I didn't want to take any risks on those brand new windows. Oscar, hello everyone. Hello, Oscar. Good to see you again. Is it me or those 20-year Southern pine lumber dominating the market too much? The lumber in the 1920s is way better, as it's 80-year-old wood that hardened for water to get through. Yeah, I mean, so of course. Yeah, of course. What's really funny is when we tear certain stuff down in our older buildings, you know what we do? We save the old dimensional lumber, the 2x4s, because they're actually 2x4. We actually save them because we'll build walls out of those. The grain in that lumber is so unbelievably tight that it is so much stronger. It's just like infinitely stronger than what we're dealing with this, modern pine stuff. Yeah. Yep. Hillis, good to see you. Whew. Excuse me. Again, sorry for the yawn. NBC, I played with one because the box was too big for the other door. Yep. Very solid and durable. And I tried slamming the door, and the slow close feature basically stops it before it closes. Yeah, totally agree. The cardboard box was too big. The cabinet out of the box. Yeah. Yep. So you had to take it out so you could get the thing inside. Totally get it. Seen it before for sure. But yeah, those things and the boxes, man, they're awesome. Frank Sanchez, if you're just starting and looking to pick a remote market, and your goal is to have a portfolio closer to yours, not Dion's, would you prioritize markets with high favor 2 to 4 units, single family home to fast track? My unit count. Fast track the unit count. For me, it's not about any of those things. It really isn't, just being honest. And being honest and not trying to be rude. It's really about, hold on one quick second. It's really about really honestly about none of those things. Give me just 1 second here. I just have to check, make sure this is nothing that I got to take care of. Oh, that's stupid. Well, that's dumb. Okay. So none of those things are the things I'm really concerned about. What I'm really concerned most about, and see, look, this is why Dion's moving. He's tired of the bullshit that's going on in Washington. I don't have that problem. I don't. We are a red governed state. We are majority. And again, this isn't a, this isn't a liberal versus conservative conversation. Here's what the conversation is really about. Fiscal conservation, fiscal conservatism, because on the fiscal side, our state has largely balanced budgets. Our state does not write a bunch of checks with our mouths that our ass can't cash. And so the other thing too is we don't have a sales tax, but we make it work. We don't have an income tax, but we make it work. How many of you guys don't have income taxes and sales taxes both out there? Exactly. So our property taxes are a little bit higher to cover for those gaps. However, when we have a problem, when a landlord has a problem, the state understands because they can't get their taxes if the landlord's not getting paid. So you know what happened with the last rent control bill here? It lost 14-0. 14-0. That stuff doesn't get voted in here. Doesn't get voted in here. Because they recognize that they need tenants to be paying their rent, so they're pro jobs. Unemployment here for years has been less than 2%. For years, vacancy rate was 1 to 2%. And there's just a lot to be said for looking for the right market. So there were multiple markets in a state, right? So you look at Dion and he's looking at, Chattanooga, Knoxville, Nashville. There's also others, like Memphis. I wouldn't invest in multifamily there. But for me, there's multiple markets here. Robert Farinelli, MPC, he invests in Keene, which is on the far west side of the state, 2.5 hours from the ocean. He invests in Nashville, which is about an hour from the ocean. He invests in Manchester, which is about 45 minutes from the ocean. Those are all the cities. Those are all the biggest cities in our state. I like the towns that borderline on city size, but I want to be in the more affluent areas closer to the ocean. So, most of my units are not more than 15 or 20 minutes from the Atlantic Ocean. So when I'm evaluating a market, I want to know that they are pro landlord. Number one, I want to know that there is a significant gap between the state becoming with the state staying conservative and not just, not a bad election. And all of a sudden there's a bunch of people trying to press rent control. That is, and you can look at it, that is one of the number one things that Democratic legislatures push in their states. It's one of the top things because they think that it helps people and it doesn't. They're stupid. They literally have just never studied it and don't really understand what they're talking about. Look at, that's why you have 50,000 vacant units in New York. That's why that stuff happens. That's why, literally thousands of applications for building units in Minneapolis, St. Paul were canceled when they went to a 3.5% rent control. It's just facts. It's just numbers. Angel Ray, scary times. I mean, sort of. It's just about getting prepared. Just about getting prepared. Because remember, I don't have to outrun the bear. I only have to outrun you. Let's see. Don't know about 70% off retail, but guess that maybe I should take those plans to a cabinet store and see what happens. It's 70% off retail. If you compare, because I know compare it to choice cabinets. Compare it to choice cabinets. 70% off. That same kitchen in choice is $10,000 and you're with just over 3,000. Telling you. I say it because it's true and because I've experienced it. When we picked this brand, we compared it to 2 or 3 other brands. One of them was a lesser brand. And this product was about half the price ish. And then we compared it to two quality brands, and one of them was like literally two and a half, um, 2.5 times the price retail. It was crazy. It was crazy. Because we just take the retail number and we vastly discount it. That's how we get to our numbers for you guys. Larry Bird, how good were your housing maintenance skills when you started? Non-existent. Non-existent. I would hire contractors and I would say, hey, I'm your gopher. I'm going to come help you. I would hire a plumber for a problem and I would say, yeah, sure, I'll meet you out there. And then I would just say, hey, I'll be helpful. I'll grab stuff for you. I'll help however I can. But that's what I did. That's what I did consistently. And that's how I learned how to do a lot of stuff. Because there's, kind of like I always say, like the 50 things, 50 things that we have on our truck. I bought a truck. I put a bunch of material on it because I saw how many trips to Home Depot we were making on a weekly basis. So I bought the truck, put 50 things on it. That made the most sense because we could do, toilet rings and supply lines for toilets and the flappers for toilets and the flush piece for a toilet and, a kitchen faucet, a complete mixing valve and setup for a shower, a bathroom faucet, light bulbs for refrigerators, smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors. Like the list is long and distinguished, but these are the things that we always encounter. These are the things we always run into. So if we're always prepared for those things, we get to that many more things on a daily basis. That's how I run it with one employee. That's how you do it. Great. Now my code's blown. Master Coach University, free state of Florida. We can do tons more in terms of deposits. That's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, they don't allow that first security first and last. They don't allow that here. Josh Burdick, thank you for reminding people to go out there and hit that like button, then come on back in. Master Coach, but of course the boom bust. Yeah. Yep. Boom bust of hurricanes, of course. Do you know which Rinnai I'm installing? I think it's RINNAI. I don't. I'm waiting for the final quote. We like to typically oversize a little bit just so you can bring it up to temp a little bit faster, especially with these smaller units. But that's what we're checking on. So I don't know the model yet, but I'll know by next week for sure. Oddly enough, Washington State and my non-Seattle county has no cap on security deposits. That's awesome. Again, really important, to keep your eye on that stuff because I just don't want you getting got. Christopher Leroy, tankless water heaters and boilers. Yep, 100%. I install them all the time. My favorite brand is IBC. It's by far the best product in the market. Not even close. I've seen all the other ones out there, and this one's the best bang for the buck by far. It's not even close. Not even close. In fact, I have installed in 7 years. I've installed 30, I think 37, and I think we're doing 38 and 39 this winter. Oh, excuse me, this summer. We wait till the summertime to replace them. Corridor Chris. Let's up these likes, people. I'm with you, Corridor Chris. I appreciate you guys. Do you know what works just as well as the likes? Is when people open up their phone and they hit either like the 100 or the smiley face or the hearts. That actually drives it even more than likes, believe it or not. So if we're trying to get this room to 100 as an example, that's the way to do it. Jeremy Kirkwood. Yep. Exact same scenario. Yeah. The VA appraiser barely batted an eye and I'd say played along. 13-foot ceiling, semi-finished base. Yeah. He noted square foot, but gave 10% zip code square feet normal. 25 under 25%. A wild deal. Congratulations. I mean, that's what happens when you do the work and you're actually just like, this isn't 1,700 square feet. We bought a house that they kept on telling us time and time again. This is 1,000 square feet. This is 1,000 square feet. This is 1,000 square feet. I'm like, it's not 1,000 square feet. It's not. So, I kind of walked it off with my feet and it was 1,000 square feet. until they added the second floor, which was permitted 40 years earlier. And the second floor added another 600 square feet. That was their loss. Now, a lot of stuff doesn't sell by the square foot per se, but you do hit certain caps with how high you can go based on your square footage. But it's not like a New York apartment where they're like, oh yeah, this building sells for 370 a foot on the third floor. It's not like that. It's not like that. It's much more loosely correlated. Yeah. Cabinet store wanted to charge me $10 per handle that I can find on Amazon for like 150. Yeah, totally agree. The difference is the ones on Amazon are hollow. They do make some solid ones. I do like the solid ones. But yeah, I don't buy any of that stuff from them. It's the same reason I don't buy the crown molding from them. That's why I taught you guys how to do your own crown molding. The crown molding that I do is about less than $3 a foot. The crown molding that they sell is like $11 to $17 a foot. No way. No freaking way. Angel Ray, Mr. Lumberjack, how often do you raise rents and by how much? Good question. So usually it's every other year. Sometimes it's every third year, depends on the unit, depends on the tenant, depends on a lot of stuff, but it's usually every other year or every third. And we don't do the entire portfolio all at once. So that's where every year, now that I have the size portfolio that I do, the goal is to, how do I create, is the market, is the opportunity there to create another $100,000? The way that you create another $100,000 is basically another $8,333 a month of rent every month. You have to create an extra $8,333. Now, usually where that comes from, a majority of it is long-term tenants finally leaving because they're usually not even close, or buying assets where the rents are significantly undervalued. That's number two. That happens pretty often because of how I buy. And then the third thing is that being able to rehab a unit and then add a significant amount of value to it. So I bought a unique deal, 2 buildings, same property. There was a 3-bed on the first floor, a 2-bed on the second floor, and then there was another building with 2 1-bedrooms. So we're working our way through this building, but the 3 we turned into a 5, the 2 we turned into a 3, and the 2 1s are going to be turned into 2 2s. But when I bought that building was generating maybe $4,500 a month of rent. Now that building generates closer to $8,000 a month of rent. So that $3,500 that I've raised literally goes right to the bottom line. A little bit of it's been taken up by tax increases and things like that, but not much of it. Because again, I was trying to unearth value. So my goal, typically with my current portfolio size, is how do I create another $100,000 this year in value? Because $100,000 is a lot of money, and again, it's $8,333 a month. And so last year we were able to accomplish that. And that was with a combination of all three. It was buying one of the assets with much, much, much lower rent than what it should have. Units were rented at $1,100 to $1,200 and they're worth $1,900 to $2,000. There was tenants that we'd had for 10 years, 12 years. They're moving away. And I had bought the building in the last couple of years. They were paying, I want to say it was like 14. I think it was like 1,400 and for a couple of units that were there. Well, those went to 20. We spent a little bit of money in those units, but those went to like 2,600 market rents. So we don't like raising it that high on people that are going into the unit or the people that are existing in the unit. That's why we do basically like the binder strategy via text. But when somebody's new going into the unit, we bring it close to market. Yep. Melodic investor, same. Portland is a pit of control. Yep. Tenants have the rights. Georgia, the sheriff will come put you out. Yeah, exactly, my man. That's exactly right. Like, you want to be in a state where it's like FAFO. Find out. Jeremy, no, sir. PM is currently managing the unit. They haven't been charging late fees. big mistake, right? Because what you'd find is that is the biggest and best deterrent that you have. What you can do is you can do a lease violation for the smoke. You can do you can say, hey, we've let late payments slide, but now you're consistently late. Please refer to them in your lease. The lease is now the lease will be enforced regarding late fees. They may just then give you notice and basically say, hey, kind of we're out. But that's one of the things. It's one of the things that you can do. Dumb money. What do you tell tenants that are continually late paying rent, but always pay when they say they will? It's almost every month now. Yeah, so I think that you have just a nice conversation with them and talk to them about, what the lease says about late fees. Say, hey, I've done my very best to not charge late fees, but I've got to get the rent more on time. Well, because here's what happens. You trust them, you trust them, you trust them. They always pay when they say they're going to pay. Going through it right now with somebody. It is the 19th and that guy hasn't paid. That's not good. I'm not getting paid. Not getting paid. So I posted him 5 or 6 days ago. And so Monday or Tuesday, I'll be able to go and file with the court and try and get this dumbass out. And I know he got a tax return. I know all that stuff happened for him, but he's just not paying the rent. Okay. Like, we can play that game. You can end up with an eviction on your record, dude. And it's not good. But yeah, enforcing late fees is the best way to curtail late payment. But also having the conversation with them and just saying, hey, I know that we've been a little bit lax in collecting fees. And you know what? You don't technically have to, depending on the state, you don't technically have to collect them right then and there. You can actually take them against. So in some states, it's legal to take them against the deposit. So we've had some cases where I was like, yep, you owe the late fee. Yep, you owe the late fee. They just never paid it. Then they were finally like, hey, we're giving our notice. I was like, all right, sounds good. And then when they had their deposit, we took late fees out of their deposit. Yep. Let's see. To be honest, I should have just managed it myself and took the course. Just chickened out. Jeremy, it's not too late. Don't chicken out. I'm telling you. There's no doubt in my mind that you save that money big time. Master Coach. Oh, yeah, good update. Yeah. We discovered that the water dripping down from the ceiling of the first floor unit wasn't from leaks from the units above. Good. Wasted money on a plumber to discover that it was just mildew condensation from tenant taking long hot showers without proper venting. Okay. Bathroom has no exhaust vent and no window to outside. Interesting. Should we build a vent? Yes. Or just tell the tenant to air out? Nope. I would. Yeah. Yeah. Especially in Florida, like you can lead to mold and things like that. And you know what? Usually it's a pretty easy, you can buy, they call them fart fans. You can buy a decent fan. 150 CFM Panasonic is a really strong one that I haven't had any issues with. But 150 CFM Panasonic, switch on the wall, and then basically it gets a hole cut in the ceiling, mounted up in the ceiling, and then a pipe that comes off of that, a flexi duct that comes off of that. And you can, port that out the wall, or you can bring it out the gable end, which is the triangle shape of your house on the roof. But you can do either of those. But I strongly recommend if you don't have a window, definitely I would be getting a fan in there for sure. NPC, on that note, could you please send me? Yeah, Brazilian guys does. Yep. Tired of these people that won't charge by the hour and want 200 to 300 per. Yeah, the 200 to 300 per cabinet's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Unless they're charging $100 an hour, because each cabinet, it takes max 2 hours. The uppers, I can do uppers in a few hours. I've done them a bunch of times. You take a 2x4, you get it level, and you literally put the freaking cabinets on there and you lean them too. And you've already got I pre-drill them and I know where all my holes are. I know where all my studs are. And I literally screw it right in. And so I can do the entire upper row in a day at the most. And that's if it's 6 or 8 or 10 cabinets. I can get that done in a day. It's not hard. Not hard at all. And no, I'm not for hire. Melodic investor. I had this happen to me, had to build a vent through the roof. Yep. And the sidewall. Yeah. So you can sometimes go out the sidewall of the gable end. Sometimes you just have to go right up through the roof. And then they make those special like covered things and they kind of look basically like a covered piece. And then it just pumps up there and then shoots out. Either way, but yeah, I would definitely get something like that because if there's that much condensation, you're just risking a potential mold issue. Frank Sanchez, when considering markets, I've narrowed it down to 3 potential. One of them had a regular snow and it's freaking me out. The other 2 don't snow. Should I eliminate the one that had snow? No, not necessarily. Because I think that, you know, a 2-bedroom in my market can be as much as $2,500, $2,600. And there's margin there. There's tons of margin there. What model? Yes, the SFT 199. Yep, 199,000 BTU on demand hot water and heat. It's got a white casing. The cooler ones were a couple of years ago. It had like a stainless casing. Looked pretty freaking cool. The new ones are just white. They're less cool looking. Let's see. Frank Sanchez. Hang yourself. Should I eliminate? No. Or am I just, you're just being a sissy about that. You just have to account for it in, do the numbers work? You know, one of the things that you want to look at is you want to look at the number of storms that they typically get in a year. So go back the last 3 years. And if it's, 9, 10, and 11, or if it's 17, like it's just something you really need to account for because we get killed. Like, no joke. We were $20,000 a month for snow. Sucked. It sucked. Because that's profit just running out the window. And yeah, I get it. You can try and trick your brain like Dion does and say my tenants paid for it. I paid for it. The tenant gave me their money. Now it's mine. If I don't have to pay for snow, I get to spend it. Now I don't get to spend it because I don't have it. Jim Folletti. Hey, Jim. Good to meet you. Do you have a ratio or rule on maintaining liquid cash, especially during the financial situation possibly coming, both for downturns and buying opportunities? Yes, absolutely, Jim. So I do a few things. One is I work with multiple banks. So I have 5 different banks that I've done a deal with in the last 18 months. I stay in ready contact with them. I send them emails kind of on a monthly basis or every 60 days, just saying, hey, hope all is well. Still looking at stuff out here. Anything that I should know about what you guys are doing. And what type of loans you're doing. Send that email pretty consistently. As far as the amount of money that I keep aside, it really ranges. One of the things that I'm doing now is I have a couple properties that I own outright, and I'm going to lever those properties. So we're doing some rehabs there. As soon as those rehabs are done, we're going to lever them. If the rates are 5.5, great. If the rate's 5.75, great. But we will buy down the rate. We'll hopefully get into the 5.5s. But I want 30-year fixed rate debt. So, and then, that's kind of the goal. I want cheap debt. I want as cheap a debt as I can get on them. But I'm going to lever them 70% loan to value. And I still want to make 20% on the asset. Those are kind of the numbers there. And then, but yeah, how much cash I have sitting there? No, because the problem is if you got, and I say problem, it's a unique problem, right? But if you're running a business, 50, so Warren Buffett, I'm not Warren Buffett, in case you couldn't tell. He's far more handsome, man. If you look at Warren Buffett, they've got $100 and something billion to invest. That's a problem. Where can you put that to work and actually get return? So you don't want to have crazy amounts of money like that. But, coming back down to earth where you're running and managing a real business, if you have a down payment for a house kind of consistently sitting there, so like 75 to $100,000, that's good. That's good. That usually does it. But I still have my emergency fund of $50,000 because a lot of stuff I can fix out of cash flow, right? Because of my ratios that I have. So it really is about kind of setting up a health report card, if you will, for your portfolio and saying, yep, I've got enough. If this comes up, if that comes up, if this changes, if that changes. But yeah, usually I've got $50,000 that sits in the emergency fund no matter what. we'll have 6 figures, but not like 7 figures just sitting there. I don't want 7 figures sitting there. I don't want it. Like, we'll lever up now because I think that now is kind of that part of the market where it's like we can get a decent rate. We can unleash some of our debt. The rents that we have in those buildings that we own, the rent will be covered by that. I'll still make 20% of my money. I won't over lever the assets, so I'll still have 70% or 30% equity, 70% debt loan to value. That's the safest way that I know to do it for me, but everybody's portfolio is a little bit different and kind of the things that would keep them up at night, if you will. Jeremy Kirkwood, I don't think I've heard your opinion on board in spray closed cell phone wall insulation, especially for landlords covering utilities. On higher end stuff, we'll use the closed cell foam. On newer construction, we'll use the open cell foam. My preference is the closed cell because it's impenetrable by pests and everything. But a lot of times we'll use rock wool because we like to use rock wool in the exterior wall. We can go R19, R21, R23. We can go to R30, R38 in the attics. And we can also do that in the basement joists. So a lot of times it's rock wool. Heating oil is now $5 a gallon. Yikes. Yeah, that is a yikes. That is a yikes. Robert, how much is rib joists? I might cheap out and flash and bat, and older homes don't get moisture issues from not breathing if you insulate rim joists. I like to hire a spray foam guy to just come and spray right in the rim joists. And the rim joist, for those of you who don't know, if you have a house that's sitting on a foundation, the rim joist is, or the sill is the bottom piece. The rim joists is basically what's around the house. Yes. Kyle Dorn. We use Ream. Yep. In the tiny homes. Yeah. They work great. Yeah. Ream's a great product. Ream, Renai, they're all really good. Yep. Haven't tried in normal house rentals. Plumber friends have been bad mouthing them, but 6 years problem free and very, very hard well water. Yeah. So we have some of that here. We generally have hard water as well. Even though, and we have wells, but we also have city. But yeah, Ream, Renai, those have both been pretty good. So for me, it's much more about service. So if a guy sells 5 Reams, but sells 100 Renais, I know that he knows the Renais inside and out. I know that he has all the parts on his truck. And think about when that thing goes out. The thing doesn't go out when it's not working or when it's not being used. The thing goes out when it's being used, right? So then you have no heat. So for me, that's why I like the IBCs, is because dealers for the IBCs, what's cool about the dealers for the IBCs is that the dealers get a dealer kit, and that dealer kit is the entire system broken down into 7 components. So I know that when I have something that fails, I'm never more than a couple hours away, 2-3 hours away from getting that part swapped out. And it could be, the fan blower. It could be, the board. It could be any one of 7 different things. And they all, they range in price to how expensive they are. But the most important thing is my heat system isn't down. My tenant still has heat that night. So that's the most important thing. Ryan Isaac, when does a potential tenant eviction no longer matter for you? When does a potential tenant eviction no longer matter for you? It always matters for me. Yep, it always does. Yep. Strong Properties just logged into the show. Do you have boot camp scheduled anytime soon? Yes, it started last Saturday. If you were signed up for it and didn't get the notification, send an email to lumberjacklandlord@gmail.com. Send an email to lumberjacklandlord@gmail.com, and I will make sure that you get the invite. I thought we hit everybody that was on the list. I reviewed it, but admins are the one that do that, not me. So I was like, yeah, that looks right. So yes, if you are signed up for that boot camp, send me an email. I said the same thing about the vent. I do it so many times. Yeah, I get it. Demi, do you use IKEA cabinets? Not in a billion years. Not in a billion years. My cabinets blow the doors off of IKEA cabinets, and it doesn't take nearly as long to install them, and they last far longer. I had a competition essentially with another guy who was an IKEA guy. My stuff, I've still only replaced one door, and he has shelves that are loose with the little pins. Like, yeah, he has the thermal foil full, pulling off, not the thermal foil, but the covering. Nope. Yeah, these cabinets are far superior to IKEA, and they're less expensive. Well, when you're in the course. Kyle Dorn. Yep, I have a family, many kids that pays late every month. Always pays when they say they do. Always pays $100 in late fees. Yeah, I post on them every month, but doesn't cost me anything. Exactly right. Had May talk with them, but had many talks with them, but all good. Yeah, just you got to stay on top of it. Millennial Mike, this guy really knows his stuff. I'm going to subscribe. Millennial Mike, you goofball. Good to see you, buddy. Larry Bird, I have a house with old wood floors. They're discolored and stained. Do you deal with replenishing wood floors or just put vinyl over them? No, Larry, no. We sand them, baby. We sand them. Yeah, you find you can look online, but most of those old boards, that dimensional flooring, most of that stuff, you can get 7 sandings out of that. And a lot of people only have gotten 1 or none. So we have floors that are 120 years old. They've been sanded a couple of times. If they're stained, one of the things that we do is we'll basically just use a color stain, like a walnut or something like that. And we'll actually then stain the floors and then poly on top of that. So that's something that we absolutely do as well. So, and it's much less expensive. Like if you were to replace that with decent LVP, you're $5 or $6 a foot. Like, not worth it. Because you can usually get those things stained and polyed for $3 a foot. Yeah, half the price. And then you still get the original hardwood floors. 11 cabinets, 200 per cabinet. So they say they are charging $100 per hour. They're claiming that they need 22 hours to set all those cabinets. LOL. What? Yeah, exactly. It doesn't take that long. Just doesn't. BuzzTune, triplex, 1 units. Yep. Thoughts on capping heat at 72, only one furnace, one tenant pays electric by furnace. Best way to resolve. Thanks, Matt. So here's what I would do. I wouldn't let it be 72. I would look and see what the law is, but I would probably put it at 69 is honestly what I would do. 69 is not cold. It is not cold. You might need to not wear shorts, but it's not cold. The other option that you can have too, Mikey, is you can play for sub-monitoring or sub-metering. You can do that. Just look into some of what the fees are. Just look at some of what the fees are. Yeah, because that's where it can certainly get you. You got to look at the fees. But a lot of times the fees aren't bad, and they might be like $7 a month or something like that they charge you. But you set up the sub-metering, which basically gets connected to each one of the loops for their unit. And then every single time their loop gets hot water through it, that thing starts counting. And then at the end of the month, you take the bill that, let's say it's $150, and everybody used the same amount. It's 50-50-50. So that sub-metering is excellent. But yeah, you want to get off of taking care of that cost for your tenants as quickly as possible. That is our strategic direction this summer, is to get off of that stuff. Yeah, for sure. That's how I would resolve it. Christopher Leroy, lots of maintenance with those Tankless combo units with hard water. Not bad. Honestly, I don't know what you're installing, but the IBCs have not been any issue. We only have them cleaned every 2 years, and we've not had any issues. Excuse me. That's not true. We have 37 of them deployed, or 38 of them deployed, right around there. And we have replaced 2 parts in 7 years for a total maintenance bill of $1,200. Excuse me, a total repair bill of $1,200. But every other year, because they're nat gas, and a couple of them are propane, but every other year we have them cleaned and we have the filter changed. That's it. And they run like champs. They run like absolute champs. So the Bosches are a pain in the ass. The Renais were a pain in the ass. There was another vendor out that was really bad too. but not the IBC. That's why I bought the IBC. We tried the first IBC 8 years ago and we loved it. The tenants loved the heat. They're like, nope, the thing keeps up with no matter how cold it is outside. That became our standard and it's been just absolutely awesome. So yeah, no real issues. Just so long as you do a little bit of maintenance every couple of years, we've had no issues. MPC, LOL, I paid $5,000 for master electrician and helper for 3 days for 45 recessed lights, 8 ceiling fans, and 7 new outlets. So these people think installing cabinets need as much pay as a master electrician. Yeah, that's the lunacy, right? Like that's crazy. And all those guys are carpenters and he actually has a 5-year license. Jeremy, I bought many Ream water heaters. The on-demand ones or the regular ones? 5-year water heater blew up 61 months later. 9-year one was, 9 years and 2 days. Yeah, totally agree. Failed. I have efficient through and water is crap. Yeah, I mean, that's why we do, like the on-demand stuff is a lot of what we do. But when it comes to electric hot water heaters, we don't really use Ream. We use Johnson and White, I think, is who we use, and they've been great. They've been awesome. No issues. No issues. IKEA cabinets, haha. I hate IKEA. Yes, preach, brother. I hate IKEA. I hate it. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Such crap. Some of their stuff is okay, don't get me wrong. But the cabinets, no. These cabinets blow the doors off IKEA cabinets. Not even close. She invests. How will you be using the funds from your cash out? Good call. I'm looking to do a HELOC on an investment property, but I was told not to use the funds for a down payment, but rather for short-term projects. You can do whatever strategy you want. I borrowed money on my primary with a HELOC to do a down payment for a building. Like, it just depends on what the deal was and does it make sense with adding the cost of that? And do you want to put your house at risk? Whatever. Like, maybe you do, maybe you don't. And that's a dealer's choice question. But what am I using it for? So the goal is, so we have a couple properties that we're looking to move on from this year. The goal is just having that capital there. The capital, so here's the thing. When somebody needs the capital, so let's think back to the great financial crisis. Somebody looks at it and they're like, holy crap, I need to get the capital out of this house because I just lost my job and I need to be able to pay my bills. You're not going to get a loan. You don't have a job. You're not going to get a loan. Even if you do get a loan, maybe it's a DSCR, but you can't do that because you can't live in that. So people think that they have this chunk of money sitting in this property. How are you going to access it? How are you going to access it when the economy's in the toilet and you don't have a job? You can't access it. So there's a cost of having money sitting there, which is why I don't want 7 figures or well into the 7 figures sitting there. I want to make sure that I have enough money to buy a property, but we know that we're going to make some moves this year. I believe that I'm selling $1 million property. I believe that I'm selling another property that's, 350 to 400K. So that's going to create $1.4 million that I can 1031 to another property. Now, I have to do at least that 1.4, but I can have that be multiple properties. That can be one property that's 1.4 million. It could also be, 6 properties or 7 properties that are 200,000. Don't know. But the other big thing for me is that if I exit these other 2 assets and I create, I don't know, what is it? 4, 7, maybe $700,000. If I create that $700,000, right, just by bringing debt onto it, right, my rents cover that, more than cover that, 70% loan to value. That's the rule for me. I don't go above the 70% loan to value. I want to make at least 20% on my money that I've got, quote unquote, in the deal, and not return on equity, return on capital. It's a little bit of a funky thing to do when you're refining, but I want to know that I'm at market rent and that I'm covering my mortgage, at 125%, or excuse me, at 0.25%. So a global return rate, if you will. And so, making $700 or whatever, but I got my $50,000, tuck away from my emergency fund and I've got cash flow coming in. So if something comes up, but I just redid the house, so it shouldn't, right. because the roof is done, the heating system's done, the appliances are done, the kitchens are done. So it doesn't really rear its ugly head. So what will I do with, hopefully those 2 deals close on the properties, but then I'll have some time over the summer to kind of look and see what I want to buy. I could buy something that's exactly $1.4 million. But what do I get out of those deals? I don't know, 6, 7, 800,000 maybe. But if it's $1.4 million and I got to spend that $1.4 million, that would be 420,000 plus closing, so 450. But if I have about 7, I've got $250,000 of excess cash there that's borrowed money that I don't get taxed on. So that's where the opportunity comes into play. Ms. Millie, Bradford water heater. I'm having great luck with. Yep, hard iron water. Yeah, we have hard water here too in New Hampshire. We're the granite state. But yeah, that's it. They seem to last pretty well here. They're pretty resilient. 9 years old is definitely old. He's already talking to it, but I sand in my personal home's wood, not engineered floor. Yeah, not engineered, but regular floors. They look beautiful. They really do. Sand them. And then you can stain them to get the other stains, to blend. And then you poly it, and it's a double coat of poly. And they look awesome, and they're good for a long time. They're good for a long time. Daryl, I got that. Thank you, sir. Yes, I got that. I got your email. I'll respond to it tomorrow. But I will just want to make sure you knew that I got your email, sir. Deconstructing Dreams. Howdy from Reno, Nevada. Good to see you, pal. Been a long day, but with 2 duties done for the week. No for the real work this week. No, that's awesome. I love that. Should I bump my email I sent earlier? Yes. Yeah, bump to the top of the list. Yeah, my man. Send it. My house stays 64 in the winter and I wear a hoodie. Yeah, exactly. So do I. Same exact thing. Except when you have kids, they change that a little bit because you can't go walk by your kids and their nose is cold. Can't do that. If it's cold, do some push-ups and sit-ups. Yeah, but you're ripped. Dummy money. Not in a million years for IKEA cabinets. Yes. Where do you get your cabinets from? A local cabinet maker? No. So they were a small upstart. I started buying cabinets from them. Now they're huge. But we don't disclose the name because, I don't think that they would love that we basically pass along our dealer savings to people. So we don't disclose the name. But you can ask anybody in here. NPC has gotten cabinets from us. Ned Talks, he's not in here. Corby's usually in here, but I don't see him in here. Millennial Mike, he'll have some cabinets. Dion, who's usually here, he's done our cabinets. Who else? Dorn hasn't done them yet. Yeah, but no, they're good quality. They're really sturdy, really well made. And the paint is properly baked on so it doesn't flake off or scratch off easy. Yeah, exactly. Funny hider. Yeah, Ryan. Yep. Yeah, for sure, Larry. You got to look into it because you can find them. Just look on Facebook Marketplace. Look at the gigs area or jobs area. You'll find some on there. You can also look on Thumbtack. You can look on Angie's List. This is going to sound bad, but I promise you it's not. It's legit. The 3 best wood floor guys that I've ever used, by far, Vietnamese guys. Not even close. With the fingernails with their wives and the floors with the dudes. Never had such a good job. Yeah. RE Travel. What are your thoughts on hiring a field coordinator? I got the idea from Gemini. Basically, it's someone you pay a flat fee to walk your properties on a monthly basis and verify the work of vendors. So the way that I've set up my operations, I don't need an extra layer of somebody else to pay to take care of that stuff. It's legitimately, it is the people that I hire. I just ask them, hey, while you're there, could you check, just check these few things for me? And then they check those few things for me because it's inevitable. You're going to have work needing to be done at your properties at least a few times a year, 2 or 3 times a year. And if I can get it walked that often, that's usually more than enough. So yeah, I've not need to pay necessarily that field coordinator. The challenge you have a lot of times is they need to justify their existence. And so all of a sudden you're like, dude, it can't be that big of a problem. We can't have that much stuff to do. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, if that helps. Jeremy Kirkwood, gas tank, 40 to 50 gallon, not instant, replacing a boiler or 2 this summer, and I'll check out IBC unit. Yeah, you won't be sorry with that, bro. I just keep thinking here to Blouse. No, it's IBC. Yeah, good. Yeah, IBC, not IBS. But those IBCs, they're made by a Canadian spec, which it gets way colder up there. And the system is it's amazingly made. Again, 37. But like I said, I've got a guy that's local that is not a dealer per se, but he's a service dealer. So he has the kit. I get back up and running. And that's what I care most about. In the wintertime, I can't have somebody call me at 10 o'clock with no heat when it's 0 degrees outside, because that house will be below freezing by morning. Right. So I got to get heat back on. And so the fact that he has that dealer kit, I'm never more than a few hours out, which is the killer. Do you prefer electric or gas for your on-demand hot water heaters? Gas by far. Yeah. Spicy and potato chip. By far, gas by far. Electric is very expensive to run for on-demand hot water heaters. Yeah, very expensive. I'll do a regular hot water heater electric, but I will not do I've done one on-demand electric hot water heater system, and it was outrageously expensive to run. It was bad. Ab Schmidt, 1016, ready for what? I spent the last hour and 15 minutes covering it. Strong Properties, thank you, sir. I've sent an email to you about the course. Thanks. Got it. I will respond to you tomorrow. Promise. My recommendation for HELOCs is add 50 basis points and term out at 10 years and pay the principal plus interest if borrowing on it to buy rentals. Yeah, I like that idea, kind of longing out the term and having a higher rate. The only problem is that if the economy, depending on how bad it gets, and Lars, you can speak to this as well, depending on how bad the economy gets, they start shutting down those HELOCs if they haven't been pulled on, or whatever you've pulled on them, then they shut them off. Well, then what was the point of having them? The reason why is from a bank balance sheet perspective, and Lars, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I spoke with 3 different banks, and the way that those 3 different banks recognize the HELOC is, let's say you have a $100,000 HELOC and a $100,000 mortgage. The $100,000 mortgage takes up the same space on their balance sheet as a $100,000 HELOC. Here's the problem. Day one, the mortgage is performing and people are paying their mortgage. Day one, the HELOC might just be sitting there. So they have to keep the reserves for managing that $100,000 on their balance sheet. It's essentially a non-performing loan. It's not making them any money. So guess what happens? The very first time that lending starts to get tight and the market starts to get tight, guess what happens? They close this line down. Let's say you borrowed 10 out of the $100,000. They close it down to $10,000. Now your credit score shows utilization of 100% on that loan, even though it was 10,000 out of 100. Now it's 10,000 out of 10, literally just because they close that account or because they bring that account down to $10,000 and they make that your new limit. Guess what? Now you're fully maxed. Guess what next? Your credit score goes down. True story. Millennial Mike, I've seen cabinets at Dion's house and they look amazing, way better than Home Depot. Yeah, not even close. Drop out and retire early. There he is. I have an amazing guy that's done my floors from Mexico for the last 30 years. My teeth from Vietnamese guy for the last, and my teeth? Yeah, the Vietnamese, they're awesome. Ike Hobbs. Hey, from Kansas. Hey, Ike. Watching tonight, always learn more every time I watch these as I get better at the operations. That's awesome. That's what I'm here for, my man. So congratulations. Hey there, Matt. Hope you're going well and you do it for all your tenants. being kind for the next entire year. Yeah, we'll see about tenants being kind. That's usually not their thing. I'm just very happy when my tenants are happy and they don't need me in their life. We're all very happy about that. Uh, that was one of my buddies sending me a card that he bought. I agree. RE Travel. I agree on them needing to justify their existence. I used one for a month and I got freaked out and thought I had to fix, a bunch of stuff. Exactly. I fixed some, walked it, and realized most were unnecessary. That's exactly my point. That's why if you look at the handyman, I always have them send me pictures and say, okay, if you see that there's a problem, just take a quick picture of it and send it to me and let me know what you think the problem is. I always make them send me pics. My guys get so annoyed because I'm just like, you didn't send a picture. It doesn't exist. I want a picture. So I'm very used to managing remote because I don't have to be on site. I couldn't be on site every single day at my projects. Like I did this for a reason. Catching a flight super early. Oh, that's right. You're going to Gary. You're going to Gary, buddy. Hey, Chris Culp. I thought it was a good idea at first because I live out of state, but perhaps not. No, RE Travel, it is a great idea. You're just paying for it, and you should be using existing teams or handymen because, again, their incentive is to find issues to then create it because let's just say they're good of heart. Let's just say that. They want to impress you and they want to make sure that when next time you go out there, your property's beautiful. Some are like that, very small number. Most of them are like, hey, this is really easy. Like I did that 17 years ago, maybe 18 years ago. And all of a sudden I get a bill for like $1,200 in the mail. And I said to the guy, $1,200 for what? He goes, I just walked around the house, fixed all the little issues that were here and there and everywhere. Dude, really? Yeah. $1,200. I was like, but we couldn't take pictures with our phones back then. So I said to him, I go, listen, before you do that again, you need to call me and ask me. Yeah, I want to know. Ruben Gonzalez. Hey, Ruben Gonzalez. Hey, Matt, I use American Water low NOx natural gas water heaters. I use Tankless before, but they require more maintenance. Honestly, it might very well be the brand. The IBCs, every 2 years, we have them cleaned and they go through them, change any filter that might need to be changed. But 7 years and I've got 37 of them deployed and I've only made 2 repairs. And those repairs were made in under 2 hours. So far, so good. Hey, Dion, what's up, buddy? How you doing, pal? Jeremy Kirkwood, 699. My issue with electric water heater is that I usually don't have a ton of room in the panel. Yeah, I totally agree. So here's what you do, Jeremy. This is one of the things that we started doing. Those small breakers that actually have 2 circuits on them. They're fantastic. We've used them. So we've put where we didn't have enough room for panels. We used to have exactly the same problem where we didn't have enough room in the panel. We would take a couple of rooms that like the light switch was on or whatever, and we would put them on those. And so we could pick up the space that we needed by replacing just 2 or 3 breakers in the panel with those. And they're a little bit more expensive. They might be a $20 to $30 breaker. But then we can put the real double in there that we need for the hot water tank. So it's been fantastic. Yep. Big Hill. There he is. Sorry, I'm late. Yeah. What the hell? You got here right when we're ending. Damn it. Hey, Beth Traverso. I hope you're doing awesome. Beth Traverso, amazing real estate professional in the Northwest. She's not leaving, even though taxes are going to 9.9%. Very true on shrinking credit limits. Yes, ago I had a Chase card with $96,000 limit, and when 2008 hit, they cut it down to 35, and I had 0 debt on the card. Well, of course you had 0 debt on the card. You're a Dave Ramsey guy. But again, the key is that a lot of businesses use debt to manage their business and keep like more even keel. A lot of times when you're a business where you have customers like plumbing business, a lot of times you have, ebbs and flows. Like you got paid for $100,000 job, but then you don't get paid for a couple of smaller jobs, or you don't have any real receivables coming in for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, sometimes 5 weeks, especially if you're doing bigger jobs. And a lot of times the companies will give you like net 30, net 60, net 90. There's a bunch of vendors that are net 90. So the challenge is you need to kind of level that out and make sure that you have money that covers your payroll, because you got to make your bills. But then you get that big, that big chunk back. And then you can either pay off that line of credit, but that's why a lot of small businesses have lines of credit. Nielsen. Yeah. Oh, Lars. Yes, they have to keep the reserve. But when they close that HELOC, you pay the balance, but that is why I have enough cash flow to pay down a 10-year term. Yes, exactly. Yep. But I save the cash and buy when others can't. Absolutely. That's why for me, it's like, I don't want to own the property debt free. I want to leverage it, but I'm looking at the market and I'm thinking in the next 2 years, what's more likely? Are properties significantly up, significantly down, or basically flat? I think they're flat to slightly down. And then over the next couple of years, I think there's going to be buying opportunities in certain markets. Maybe it happens in the next 2 years in mine. Maybe it doesn't. But if I have 70% loan to value and the market goes down and I have to sell it, I can sell it and not write a check. I want to make sure that I'm making at least 20% on the rents, because that way I can still cover repairs out of that cash flow. And if other units stop paying, I still have decent cash flow coming from that one. And then thirdly, because it makes no sense to have that paid off asset so long as you got to pay property taxes on it. It's just true. If you got to pay property taxes and water bills and all this other stuff, the government can put liens on all of that stuff. They can. So you don't really own it. It's facts. Ms. Millie, learned so much tonight. Thank you. You're welcome. Hope the kiddos get better soon and you don't get gunk. Yes, amen. Yes, amen. That's so true. I don't want to get sick. Oh, please, sick kids don't make me sick. Yeah, oh my goodness. Yeah, preach, man. That would be not the end of the year. Samuel has, my oldest, he's 8, strep, flu, double ear infection. Went to go give me a hug tonight. And I go, dude, we're going to do something totally new and totally cool. Air hugs. 20 feet that way. Air. That's what we did. I'm not getting that close. Nope. Marlon Ari. Good evening. Oh, good evening. I mean, a fee. Yep. You can also get credit. It's easy to bump the credit score as they will clean up history for a bribe. Fee. Yeah. See, you know what? So that has gotten better, but I've got this one. I kid you not. It affects like I for the longest time I had 805 to 850 credit scores, 805 to 850 consistently, and then I paid off a vehicle. They didn't get the check and they hit me with a 30-day late. My credit score went down into the 6s. I called them and I said, guys, I ordered a payoff. I sent the payoff in. You didn't get it. I didn't get anything saying that I had a late payment. And I said, and you hit me with a 30-day late when I'm paying off a vehicle, you dickheads. I didn't say that on the first call. I did say that on the last call. They wouldn't take it off. So now my credit score is like 770 or something, but still effectively 50 points lower than it normally is, because I had this one stupid delinquent payment on there that happened like a year or something ago. I actually got to get on that and get that just taken off, because that's a bunch of bullshit. All-nighter. Matt, we're in Gary. Mike and Mini Mike are getting up at 2:15 to get I get to Uber them. Oh, very nice. Oh, are they going home already? Oh, that's right. I think they got done the 14th. That's right. Man, how that flies by. Don't forget to wish Beth Traverso a happy belated birthday. Oh, I didn't even realize. It was a big birthday this year. She turned 40. Big birthday. Congratulations, Beth. Look amazing. Spicy potato chip. What do you look at as far as credit score and income rent ratio? Are you flexible on all those? Yep. Yeah, because it really comes down to, if I've got somebody with a 650 credit score, but they make 120 grand a year, I always ask them, what's the deal with your credit? What was the problem? And if it's medical debt, and they can show me it's medical debt, it's not a thing. That can happen to anybody, or sometimes they're like, I went through a divorce, you can see, and they'll even send me a picture. They're like, see, a year ago, my credit was in the high 700s. I got divorced. She tanked me. And, now I'm in the low sixes. I see it all the time. So yeah, flexibility, always looking for that ratio for sure. Troy Roberts. So KCMO taking the book out from West to East Coast tenant friendly states to start giving tenants league rep and take 60 to 90 days to evict. So KCMO, I don't know what that is, taking the book out from West East Coast tenant friendly states to start giving tenants league rep and take 60 to 90 days to evict. Yeah, good luck with that. It's not going to work in New Hampshire. Won't work in New Hampshire. I mean, but they can try. Dave Ramsey guy comment. You are a Dave Ramsey guy. This I know. Because you're the only one that uses fishes in your posts. Wasn't that hard to figure out. Head court today, and tenant said that she is aware that she is 2 months late on rent, but doesn't know how much she owes on late fees and utilities. Okay. You can't put late fees in most states. You can't put late fees in the amount that they owe for rent. And so then PMS sends me email push notifications daily. Judge still gave legal and pushed out trial 30 days. What state is that, Troy? I don't remember. Sorry. Was that Michigan? What a bunch of bullshit. That doesn't happen in my state. In fact, do I have an eviction? Yeah, I've got one going on right now. Tenant was just an idiot. Jeremy Kurgan, tenant breakers go to get extra space. Yes, believe it or not, I had not thought of that. That's why you come here, Jeremy. Good call. Just save me a couple grand. I know, you're welcome. No idea why I wasn't thinking about those. I don't know either, Jeremy. I don't know either. But see, guys, $2,000. I just saved him $2,000. He was going to have to get another panel. Now he can get those things for literally $20 to $30 per double breaker. He can either put them in himself or have an electrician do it, but it's a fast job. It's less than an hour's worth of work. It's actually probably less than 15 minutes worth of work. But you could also have the guy then move some slots around, re-legend it, which means labeling it, and then put the what is it, a double 50? It's a double 50. Double 60, maybe. That's okay. That's such bullshit. I'm loving these high rates right now. I'm trying to buy another house at the moment, and with the high rates are keeping away the bidding wars. Yeah, for sure. No, there's definitely opportunity for sure. When you say earn 20% on your rentals, is that on the down payment or on the total value of the property? So not debt. So not income on equity. It's usually on the down payment. But the way that I figure it is, so let's say my rent or my mortgage and all my expenses in are $33,000. I want to be at least 3,600. So I add 20% on top of that. And that's what I want to make. I want to make $600 on 3,000. If that's my nut on like a refi. Air hugs. Yeah, they work. Air hugs work. Beth Traverso, I thought of leaving, but I love it here. And my job is tied to this location. Yeah, no kidding. I just have to do my best to tune out the crazy. I'll help all the people leaving sell. Exactly. That's the right thing. Hi, Lumberjack. First time on. Willie here from Chicago. Hey, Willie. Good to see you. Thanks so much for coming on and hanging out with us. Willie, do you own property already, or is it you're trying to get in the game? BBQ, since you are director of your portfolio operation, how would you exit this when you get older, like in your 70s? Great question. I think the portfolio will look a lot different. So a couple of things. One is I've got 4 kids, so we'll see if any of the kids want to manage it, run it. Do some sort of a seller financing. Yeah, I'm going to sell them to them, but do some sort of a seller financing thing. And again, the only reason that we would do that is it would just give us income. I wouldn't have anything to do with the business anymore. They would run the business, but I would be the debt holder. And so then they would just pay me that. And then that would be what funds my lifestyle. Or it could also be a combination thereof of, I own 53 buildings. Will I own 75 or 100 then, or will I own 25? I don't know. So maybe cash out of a few. So you've got, millions of dollars sitting there that I can use and go do or buy whatever I want. So yeah, lots of off ramps, selling to other younger landlords, you know, Millennial Mike was going to be Dion's retirement plan, but now Dion's leaving. He's keeping his stuff. I don't know how much longer Mike will stay around in Washington. So yeah, always options. So I can hold debt. I hold some notes now today that people pay me on, and so I get the income from the asset, but I'm just the bank. So I have a few that I'm the bank on now today. So I have done seller financing and been the bank. But yeah, that's the idea. The other thing too is just potentially just re-levering with debt. What is that property worth? So I'm 48 now. What's that property worth 20 years from now? It's 68. I mean, is a $500,000 property worth $1 million? Is it worth $1.5 million? I don't know. Let's say it's worth $1 million, and so my property's doubled. But at that point, I'm pretty close to having paid the debt off. So then do I re-lever it? I don't know. Those are the things that we kind of consider. My guess is it's going to be some sort of a hybrid solution. Sell some to the kids. The other thing too is that, in 20 years, do they have kids? So that's all kind of watching it that way. But those would be my 3 exits: would be seller financing, re-levering with debt, or just flat out selling some outright. Yeah. Kansas City. That's what it was, man. That's bullsh, man. That is bullsh. She Invests. Wonderful live stream as usual. Thanks, Matt. You're welcome. You're very welcome. Jeremy. Bye. I'll got to wrap up my clawfoot tub enamel recoat to head home. Oh man, I've done that. That job sucks. She claims she doesn't know, but she gets an email and push notifications daily. What I meant. Yeah. Like, she's so full of shit. But that's what I would do is I would actually take that document and I would send a copy of that to the judge. That's where I always tell you guys, you only have one shot in front of the judge. So why am I 31-0 in eviction court? Why am I 31-0? I'm 31-0 for only one reason. When I go into court, I'm fully prepared. I have absolutely every single thing on my list. And so I can show every single document. I can show the timeline. I can show every supporting document. Your Honor, this is what the tenant is getting. This is what she has sent me. Here's all of her text messages. And I've actually flagged them, the ones that are most important for you to take a look at. Like, that's where they're not going to get away with anything. Yeah. Great to know I'm moving breakers because we all had bedrooms and several living homes. Yep. And electrical panels are always pretty full. Yeah, for sure. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. On the great teacher, appreciate that. But yeah, those double breakers, they saved our lives many a times. It's a newer thing in the last few years. The ones that actually are separate circuits, they're the little tiny buttons. Just make sure that you re-legend or remark your panel so it's accurate. But that saved my bacon a bunch of times. Yeah, it saved my bacon a bunch of times. Because a lot of times these older homes, they only have a 12 slot panel. And I need to pick up 2 slots to do an electric hot water heater. I'm like, I'm screwed. So then I end up combining a bunch of stuff onto those things. And then I actually create the space for that double. And then sometimes we might even be converting to like an electric stove. I need another double. And then adding a washer dryer. I need another double. So that's how you do that. Trey Roberts. Yeah. First eviction, definitely learning. I asked my lawyer, what all the docs do you need? And he said, just tenant ledger. Yeah, he's wrong. Like, I get it's your first. And so, maybe I'll do that next week. I'll talk to you guys about that a little bit, about an evictions, because the evictions are so critically important. You can win. What about all notices and notifications? Absolutely. Yeah. Freaking hell yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I wish I had one on me, but I don't see one. No. So I have, every single time I go to court, I have a tenant timeline. Saw the unit. I go all the way from the first time they saw the unit. Negotiated lease, signed lease. I have a copy of the lease. Then I have, move-in date, and then any issues that came up around the move-in, right? Like if they forgot to put something in their name, or they got to do this, or they forgot to do this. And then, I would say something like, uh, you know, 6 maintenance calls over X amount of period of time, all items resolved in under 3 days, that sort of thing. And sometimes I'll call out what each of those are, right? To impress the judge, because they want to see that. And then I'll just bring a printout from my PM system that just says, here's all the tickets that were open and here's all the stuff that was closed. But yeah, absolutely. Notices, 100%. All of the notices absolutely get shown. What else? I'm in court for the eviction, going for that number. I'm just trying to get the eviction, and then I'll sue afterwards for the number. So I don't ask for the $1,500. I don't ask for, because they cap that. But what that does is that opens up the door for them to bitch about habitability. And it's not that the place is inhabitable. It's that they can make the bitch about it being inhabitable, or that Your Honor, look at this and look at this. Your Honor, I don't live in the unit. They live in the unit. They made it a pigsty. That wasn't me. That was them. Oh, well, you're going to have to address some of these issues. That's the kind of crap. Yeah. He said, we drew a judge that if a tenant shows up, they provide legal and extend for trial 30 days out after taking 20 to 30 days out. Yeah, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. Yeah, that's bullshit. Yeah, that's bullshit. Yep. So, Missouri, generally speaking, is St. Louis still conservative? I don't know. I don't know that it is. And again, the only reason I mention that is because I've helped my friends do stuff in Massachusetts, and the judges are morons. They are unbelievably over the top for the victim, no matter how guilty the victim is. And I'm like, are we here to get justice or just get the victim off? Right? Like in New Hampshire, it's a very different approach. It's innocent until proven guilty. Yes. But in landlord tenant court, it is just more likely than not. So when I'm pleading my case and I come prepared, like I just talked to you guys about, every single thing on my document, and I could have 30 lines there. And then I have the corresponding paperwork there with it. The stack is this big. Even on just a typical tenant, the stack is this big, and it's just a manila folder. So I don't lose. Will I lose someday? Yes, of course I'll lose someday. But right now I haven't. Right now I'm 31-0. And the reason why that is because I go to court prepared. I have every single possible thing, because I've heard judges say it, because I'm a dork and I sit in courts and I watch judges. I've literally heard them say, what were you waiting for? Today's your day in court. You don't have everything. It's only in that county. The other side of the street, it would take 10 to 14 days for posting to get. Yeah. Yep. And no provided legal. Yeah. So that's exactly right. I get it. And so that's just Troy, and not to pick on you at all. This is just my point earlier, which is I want to be in an area where it is low drag to get my tenant to pay. And if they don't pay, they get to go bye-bye. That's really the key for me. I had the chance to give you an idea of where I am. Maine is 10 minutes north of me. Maine, the state of Maine, 10 minutes north. Massachusetts is 20 minutes south of me. Could have been a landlord of Mass. Could have been a landlord of Maine. Vermont, a little bit longer, but it's like an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes west of me. I have my choice between any of these states. Any of them. I lived in Mass for a while. And I picked New Hampshire. Why? They were the only state that had a red governor with higher property taxes and fewer programs, where I knew that as I saw tenants go into court, the judges don't suffer them. They don't. They're just like, all right, you're going to need to give me a reason why I shouldn't evict you today. Well, Your Honor. And then they'll say their reason. They're like, that's not a reason. Do you have anything else? Well, Your Honor, that's not a reason. No. Anything else? Last chance. And they're like, she's like, one of the judges is just, she's like, you just don't pay your bills. So yeah, you got to go. So exactly what happened. She said, I would get prepared because I'm going to put in an eviction order this afternoon. She puts in the order. I pick it up. I bring it to the sheriff. The sheriff serves it in 2 to 4 days. And when I say serves it, that means we go to the unit and there's a knock at the door. And if no one answers, we go in and we look around and see if there's a person there or anything else still there. But we get to go and we get to put a sheriff's notice on the door. We get to go inside the unit and I get to take all my pictures that I want and I change the code on the door locks. But I change the code on the door locks. Then those are all changed. And then if they break in, it's B&E. It's breaking and entering. They have then 7 days to pick up their stuff. That's how awesome it is. Both. They are massholes and they live in Massachusetts. It's a true story. It's a true story. Watch, if you guys want to get a real kick about what a toilet Massachusetts is, look at the fact that none of the public offices there can be audited, and the fact that there's an auditor there trying to do a state audit and she can't do the audit because they're obstructing. They're literally suing her, or she had to sue them to be able to carry out the audit that she was hired to do. Look it up. Look it up. Look up Massachusetts audit and you'll see her. She's this pretty brunette girl and she is an absolute dog. She's an absolute, I love her. Every single time I see one of her posts, I think, I know you're doing an amazing job. I think you kick ass. And I put that message every single time I see her on social media because she's an absolute beast. And when she starts auditing that stuff and when they get the clear, she's literally said in a meeting in the press, sitting on Capitol Hill, she's actually said this. I know right now you guys are destroying evidence. I'm sorry. She just said, what? You guys are destroying evidence. I'm like, damn. She is awesome, but watch it. Look it up. Yeah. Watch it. Look it up. It's funny how they refuse to do the audit and the governor is calling NH live free and dumb. Yeah. Maura Healey is one of the most corrupt politicians in the entire country, in my opinion. Maybe Gavin Newsom is a little bit more corrupt, but I'm telling you, Maura Healey, it would be shocking. Ilhan Omar gives her a run for her money. It's crazy. Imagine having no audit privileges in the state for where money is actually spent. And she was the one sitting there on a couch going, I'll tell you, everybody, I stopped 2 pipelines. It was me. I stopped 2 pipelines from going through the state. It's for inexpensive oil and inexpensive natural gas. Nice job, dipshit. Do you realize the billions of dollars in jobs that cost and the cost of that energy? Like, it's unbelievable. So, yeah. Diana DiZoglio. Yep, she's about 6 months younger than me. She's an absolute beast. I'm telling you guys, go look her up on social media. You will laugh your ass off because she is an absolute pit bull. And I hope they absolutely catch these jerk offs because I think it's so disgusting. I was in Massachusetts, and that was one of the reasons I decided not to invest in Massachusetts and why I left. That is why I left, was because the state could not have been more corrupt and they steal from their citizens with the amount of taxes that they charge. And everything is crazy more expensive. Everything is. You can literally go across the border and the gas is 75 cents a gallon more expensive there than it is in New Hampshire. And it's because we just tax our stuff a lot less because we're fiscally responsible. It's unbelievable. My 2 cents, the system is the problem, not the idiots it affords. True story, but you got to start somewhere. All right, it's 10:54. I'm tired. Matt, one of my new tenants is complaining about a squeaky floor. Do you have any advice on how to fix it? Yeah, so depending on what the squeak is, a lot of times when you have a squeak in a floor, it's the subfloor, so it's the plywood that's rubbing up against each other. You have a couple of options. Your best option usually is to you can see where the squeak is, go downstairs in the basement where there's a joist, and you can actually take a board and make sure you don't use too long of a nail, but you can actually screw that or lag that into the joist, and then you can screw up into the board with somebody standing on it, and then it won't move anymore. That's terrific with the Texans and Mass. Yes, it's insane. Yeah, so let me know, Mark, how that works. Guys, have a fantastic rest of your week. Boot campers for my Saturday, guys. I will get emails out to everybody sometime tomorrow with my kiddos. Hopefully they give me a little bit of a breather. And guys, as always, thanks so much for coming and hanging out. Make sure you hit the like button on the way out. Give me a bunch of hearts and things like that. Blah, blah, blah. All the good stuff. Subscribe if you aren't subscribed. Why aren't you subscribed yet? That's just rude. Anyway, see you guys in the next one. Always good to see you. Chester, Wealth Building Journey, and Hyder. I appreciate you guys. Modding for me tonight, as you always are. So predictable and reliable. I appreciate you guys. Take care, everybody. We'll see you guys in the next one. Later.